Hey guys, so welcome back. We're going to go into the mysterious Korean heiress. Yeah, like one of these rich girls from like the K-dramas, but in real life and in real trouble, who is apparently one of the major people behind the latest scandal that really wrapped up G-Dragon and Parasite star Lee Sun-kyun. And she ain't new to the rodeo. And I think this is why we've seen such craziness when it came to throwing celebrities in front of the bus, because the actual people who should be really investigated and who are facing a lot of jail time for repeat offenses under Korea's strict drug laws are in the back of the bus, probably laughing right now and trying to see what other kind of games they can pull so that they will not get the heat of the attention. But today, we're turning it up. This is going to be a hot kitchen, so stay tuned. So first of all, the reason why I think we're in this situation where a lot of celebrities are being thrown under the bus first has to do with Korea's strict drug laws. And not to get too far into the weeds, but a lot of you in the comments have been saying, why has Korea had such a draconian and strict way of handling drugs? Well, historically, they say that because Korea has seen the Chinese empire essentially, fall down and crumble and decay within because of opium and the opium wars, in the 19th century. Yeah, I know a lot of history books, in these TikTok days don't go that far, but that essentially is kind of being repeated right now in the United States with the opioid epidemic here as well. So in general, there has been a very strong reaction in Korea against drugs. The other part of the situation is that I think Korean people know that if drugs were really readily available, that there would be a big demand for it. And so their worst fears would essentially materialize, and they know it would materialize. In a similar vein, that's why there's a acceptance in society in Korea for very strict gambling laws, because they've seen in the past that people just go crazy with the gambling situation. There is a demand because the social structure is so intense. There's only one way of success, and it really does create a situation where if you are in a very stressed out situation, there's really no other way for it. There's not a lot of other alternatives other than really dominating and winning so that you feel just kind of at an even keel. So if you do choose the route of this escapism of substances or gambling, they know that it can really destabilize a society. That's essentially why there's no guns in Korea, because they know that you legalize guns in 3 months, you'd be flying into Incheon and be where'd all the people go? So that is a way to say that there is a strict law against drugs, and that has not changed in Korea, and Korea still has the death penalty. Although it hasn't been implemented since the late 90s, but people have been added to the death penalty list even in recent years. Why do I bring this up? Because I think if we did not have all of the celebrities, G-Dragon, all of the tests and people looking into him, and Lee Sun-kyun, the Parasite star, the debate and the discussion in the media would have gone a lot more differently for our dairy princess, our third generation heiress to the Namyang Dairy empire, who has been in trouble before with drugs and dealing and using, bringing down celebrities, even mysterious deaths of her ex-husband, or her husband became an ex because he died. And now she has been embroiled in this again. And with Korean laws, with especially drugs, it's very loosey-goosey. But the sentencing gets much tougher for repeat offenders and dealers. So apparently, right now, it's punishable if you are violating the drug laws in Korea by at least 6 months in prison or up to 14 years for repeat offenders and dealers. And President Yoon Suk-yeol, the current president, has said that he's going to crack down, and it looks like this would have opened up a debate to perhaps even increase the time. But in general, a judge can give up to 14 years. Now, where do you get leniency? Where do you get, this? In this case, the judge really does have a lot of leeway in terms of how much of a punishment to give. And the better you hide yourself and keep it quiet, the easier it is for the judge to give an easier sentence. Learn this sort of the hard way. But if a judge says they like to keep media attention down, that essentially means that don't get in the way of my bag. Don't get in the way of me being able to cut a deal with people and not be called out on it for being some sort of like crazy lenient judge who's probably being bought off. The less media attention you have, the easier you can cut a deal, and still, this is the key, still have it be legal. So if the media is not paying attention to this repeat offender who has caused so much damage in many people's lives, then if the judge is kind of like, all right, we could go up to 14, but we'll try to keep it the least amount of possible because you rich and powerful, so we're gonna make a deal with you. He can do that if there's not a lot of media attention and if the media is focused on like G-Dragon or Lee Sun-kyun. He can't do that if the public is so enraged and wondering why she is not getting a stiffer sentence or a harsher punishment, especially when it's in the legal books. So that's the key. It's legal if he gives her 14 years and essentially she's going to be in her 40s or 50s by the time she gets out of jail. It's still legal if she gets fewer years. So granted, you probably wouldn't even be paying attention to this case if it was just about this 29-year-old female identified as A, who is the manager of a Gangnam entertainment establishment. She's a 6-time offender, and she's at the core of this media reporting saying that she's blabbing her mouth and accusing these stars and even giving evidence of where it seems like the stars actually did partake in something shady. In terms of Lee Sun-kyun, he said that, I was blackmailed, and then also I ingested, but I didn't know that it was, and I got tricked by this girl. Anyhow, this girl does not even seem to be that attention worthy, but when you really look into it, attached to this Miss A, who's the 29-year-old female Gangnam entertainment establishment manager, at kind of the core of it, really, she's not the core. This case, if you focus on G-Dragon, you're really missing the whole story. And thank goodness G-Dragon has been able to clear the pathways for us to focus on things. And if you don't care, other than G-Dragon, then you don't care. But if you want the real drama behind the K-drama, it's essentially a dairy princess. And she surprisingly popped up in this case when it looked like she was not supposed to even be here anymore. She said she was going to be a reformed angel now. So, this situation starts in 2015. In 2015, Miss Dairy Queen, Miss Dairy Princess, she was a princess then. I think now, after a while, she's queen of this now. She knows how to run this stunt because she's been running it a long time. So, in 2015, there was a scandal involving drugs, yes, with a college student named Jay. And in the court ruling, apparently, because, her name came up 8 times in this judgment, but she was not even investigated at the time. And starting from then, there were rumblings saying like, oh, she got special treatment because she is a princess, and her dad, really orchestrated a way for her to not get investigated even by the police, suspecting that the police has ties to this family. And perhaps in this case, she really did solidify a first-hand experience with what happens when the media goes focusing on something else and how you can just kind of, be let off the hook. During this time, this whole scenario, when the police were questioned about why did you suddenly drop this investigation? It looked like you should have investigated. They were like, oh, well, there was that big uproar over at the Chogyesa temple, which is the main Buddhist temple, where they were hiding a fugitive labor activist, somebody who had been inciting a lot of protests and riots against the Park Geun-hye government over workers' rights. And then the police wanted to arrest him, but it kind of looked like, the President Park, acting like a dictator's princess, another princess. There's a lot of princess problems in Korea. So that princess, when she was the president at the time, before she went to jail, there's a lot of people, a lot of princesses going to jail. So she looked like she was, heavy, kind of being a dictator and using the police to try to get this guy who is a labor union leader arrested because he went out to go hide with the monks. But it's like in the middle of Seoul, but it's beautiful, beautiful temple. And so that just caught a lot of attention. And so the police had to go, they say, take care of that. And so this whole situation with Hwang Hana, our little Miss Dairy Queen, kind of went away, and she never got investigated. Okay, so that was 2015. She got away, even though in the court documents of the judge's ruling, she was mentioned 8 times. For what? Using, supplying, and administering. But wasn't investigated. All right, fine. She got away with it. In 2016, the story continues, and yes, she was involved in the whole Burning Sun incident. But yet, in that one, she also was not charged in the case, even though she was named by one of the people who did get charged and was under investigation for being a distributor. Okay, so she's not just a user, she's kind of like making money off of this. It looks like definitely in 2016, when that club scene was popping with Seungri, and that was the Gangnam place, and these people were making bank by doing all of this horrible shady stuff to even the customers and then supply, it was like a free-for-all market. And so it looks like this girl was working hard during this whole situation. And so this guy who was charged in the case was an MD, which is, one of those people that you call, your VIP hookup into the club. And he was charged for this illicit substances and being involved in this situation. And he basically, when he testified, mentioned Hwang Hana's name, but she wasn't charged in that case. But again, see what happened in that. When you remember Burning Sun and all that, you remember Seungri. And Seungri from Big Bang. Yes, it turned out that you unpeeled that onion and you went into the chat rooms, and there was just a litany of different scandals that the celebrities were involved in. And then as long as, somebody else's name is bigger than yours in the scandal, you can kind of hide and, fold into the cut. And so that's, again, she's saying dang, this thing works. It worked when I, the labor leader. Okay, that wasn't as sexy, but now, dang, we got celebrities. And then, if you just let the celebrities, open up their closets, then, stuff will fall out. So it's not even that hard to do. But it seems like this is when she started to get more codified into, this kind of behavior, because it seems like it repeats. Now let's move to 2019. Okay, yeah, because 2018, 2019, that was the Burning Sun scandal. 2016 to 2018 seemed like that's when she was, she was working it at that club, and now the club is shut down. So what's she gonna do? Well, looks like now she has latched onto a celebrity, Park Yoo-chun from JYJ, and in the media, it was sort of reported that they were like a fiance or a couple, but she even admitted saying like, they were never really a thing, but it was just kind of cool. She liked the attention in the media, and then so she kind of just went with it. But she kind of made it look like, now she's manufacturing this situation where it kind of looked like, okay, yes, she was close to Park Yoo-chun because they were a boyfriend girlfriend, and it just kind of looked like they were probably users together, and then I don't know, maybe they had some flings or something like that. But the way that she got a little bit of a reduced sentence, it seems, it's first of all, this would be her first time of being a first-time offender, even though she got out of the first two. Remember what I said, like the number of times matters. And so in this case, she was like, oh, she was just kind of like the first time, and she kind of blamed it all on JYJ. The most unbelievable part of this was when she blamed JYJ, when they said like, okay, but we do have evidence, because they probably tested her hair and stuff like that, and they're like, you have drugs in your system, how you going to explain that? And then she said like, oh well, like a few times maybe, but I was injected while I was asleep by the JYJ guy. Why you sleeping? Like, why would he do that? What's the point? That makes no sense. But in terms of legally, it does reduce the number of times that she would be held to account because it wasn't intentional. So Park Yoo-chun, he admitted that, yeah, this stuff was going on. And then somehow Hwang Hana had convinced him to say, oh, yeah, I did this to her while she was sleeping. And he also was like apologizing, oh, sorry for leading her down the wrong path, where I think it was probably the opposite. Well, she the Dairy Queen. She got the milk, not the other way around. She making the soft serve, not the other way around. She got the cones, not the other way around. If you want it in a bowl with sprinkles, she's the one that got it, and leading people to her ice cream, not the other way around. So, given her clean criminal history, the court sentenced her to 1 year in prison time, but she didn't have to serve it. It was like, look, you get a 2-year probational period. If you don't mess up in these 2 years, then you don't have to serve this 1 year in prison. So that was like super sweetheart deal. I don't know, the judge probably got some of his ice cream too. And she was sentenced to 40 hours of protective supervision. I don't know what that is. And then she just had to pay like $2,000 as a fine. But interestingly, during this case, we also found, because it roped in a lot of people, we also found out about claims that there was a so-called Hwang Hana list, or she kind of keeps her hit list, blacklist, dirt list, insurance list, whatever you want to call it. And she apparently was giving all of this information to other people, so that they wouldn't rat her out, because they have to try to collect evidence. And she's probably in her mind now really thinking about like, what would her goal be? Decrease the amount of times or instances where either she's used or sold or distributed that the police have a testimony or a lead on to investigate to find the evidence. And that usually comes from different informants that she was working with or using with. Why would Hwang Hana give some random dude, or a dude that they did interact with, all of this, dirt information so that he can reduce his sentence. There's probably something that he could have said about her that could have brought her down even more, where it's not just a, oh, hey, 1 year sentence, but we're not gonna make you do it unless you mess up in the next 2 years. All right, so that was like her third situation that we know of, but really the first official sentencing. Now that was in 2019 in January when she was arrested for that and then given the sentence. And then, they said like, okay, just stay out of trouble for 2 years and this will all just pass, just do it. Well, 2 years did not pass by until she got in trouble again. Now in 2020, she gets her second sentence. And remember, she basically in 2019 had to be a good girl until January 2021. But no, it got hot in the summer of Seoul in 2020 for this girl because she was charged again for using meth with 3 other companions in August of 2020. And in this investigation, she was found to have used the drug on several other occasions for a total of 5 times. So now she's gotten in trouble while she was in her probationary period. But funny enough, the people she was with were used in this situation to cover up her deeds where they're taking the fall more than her. And one of these people was essentially a guy named Mr. O, who became her husband in like a shotgun wedding. Like they barely met each other, and then like in the winter of that year, I believe, and then they became married sometime. So officially they were married. And she also said during her testimony that, oh, well, could have been that many of times, but, my husband, he injected me while I was sleeping. The same excuse that she gave the last time. So you could see, like, people do and repeat what has worked in the past. And so now she don't have celebrities here, but she's throwing other people around her in front so that they can take the fall. How do we know this? Because the husband said so. How do we also know this? Because the friend of the husband, like they were kind of a team, also said so. And the husband's friend's girlfriend also said so. It got into a messy situation where they were all ratting her out. And follow with me, we were in August when this essentially got into the hands of the police, and Hwang Hana had been able to maintain a bit of loyalty from her husband, but that started to crack, where initially he made the testimony that, I'm sorry, like, it's kind of my fault, not her fault. Oh yeah, like while she was sleeping, I injected her. Well, apparently, maybe he read the Bible about bearing false witness, because in December, he arrived at the police station, the husband, saying like, you know what, that testimony back in August was a lie. And even, from that testimony until now, this girl, well, basically his wife, she'd been using, and, I need to revise my testimony. And he said that it was all about covering up for the Dairy Princess. His friend named Mr. Nam also said that, I feel like this is such an unfair situation because we're being thrown under the bus to take the fall for this girl, and I feel like this is a real unjust situation. And he had said this in essentially like attempted to end himself, and he went into a coma until January or February of the next year, so that was not successful. We don't know. Did he do it for real? Or, was it staged to look like that? We don't know essentially about that, because what did happen is that a couple days after her husband went to the police station and said like, oh, I want to change my testimony, he went back again and said like, oh, I'm going to change it back. Sorry, you know, cancel. And then he reportedly had taken and offed himself and went into a different dimension. And it looked really suspicious and shady, especially the timing, because he was going to rat out his wife. And it looked like he's not going to make that kind of a decision. And the weird thing was that the Dairy Princess called the friend, Mr. Nam, about whether there was like a note that he left, as if she sort of knew what was in the note. And then they did find the note. The police did find the note, and it said that, I'm sorry that I got Hwang Hana into drugs or into trouble or into this kind of life. Again, who is serving up the ice cream and who has the ice cream machine? I doubt it was him. And that was very shady. And the fun part, I don't know if there's a fun part. And the weird part of this is that in November, before this happened, there's always kind of a lead up. How did it get to this situation where he's reversing his testimony? He's, then takes this decision, or has been offed and made it look like he's taken that decision to off himself. Mr. Nam's girlfriend snitched on her because the princess apparently broke into this girl's house and stole a bunch of luxury handbags and nice things. And she had like surveillance video of the Dairy Princess going around stealing stuff. And the Dairy Princess denied it even. And so this girl was fed up. I guess, they're just like, look, we're all taking the fall from you. And now you stealing my Gucci, Prada, Chanel, or whatever. Oh, no, that's it, girl. You take the bags, that's it. So that was her line. And so she snitched on her. So it was it looked like a domino effect of all these people that were close to the Dairy Princess protecting her are suddenly like, okay, no more. We're teaming up against you. You're done, girl. And then suddenly her husband goes off to a different dimension and can't speak anymore. So then with Mr. Nam, who then later said like he felt like he was falsely accused and he was resentful, and he said that I was so angry and resentful, all these things happened because of Hwang Hana, and maybe she's using this to cover up her sins. Then he goes into a coma. I don't know who they say he put himself into that coma, but you can call the coma service, or you can email the coma service for fast delivery, okay? And while he was in this coma, the news that came out was that, oh no, he's not just some innocent friend who got wrapped up into this. He's like one of Korea's biggest El Chapos or something like that. And so that was presented as like, oh, he's not that innocent. It looks like a media play, because his family, the guy who went into a coma, his family said that is not true at all. He is the victim of a drug gang. He's not the leader. He's not El Chapo. So what happened? That all crazy stuff happened in December, and then a month later, in January of 2021, Hwang Hana was sentenced to 2 years in prison. And so that would be on top of the 1 year that she got. So then she would have to be there for a total of 3 years. But then she went to the court and appealed it, and she got the sentence reduced to 1 year and 8 months. So then she had the 1 year and 8 months, and then the 1 year that she had from the first ruling that, was on standby, was on layaway if she got into trouble. So she got into trouble, so that applies. So she should have been in jail for 2 years and 8 months. So if she started in January of 2021, she should have been released in September of 2023, like a few months ago. But no. September 2023, a few months ago, was when she got caught again. So she's been running games. When did she get released? October 2022. So she really only served 1 year and 8 months. And it was silent as the grave in the media reports about where that extra year went. Where'd that 1 year go from the original case that was supposed to be applied? It just suddenly disappeared, like it was like some accounting error. So this is how very quietly you can adjust things if the media is not paying attention to you. If you can't do it quietly, then you throw something louder in front of you. So in October 22, when she was released, there was some media attention. They definitely filmed her coming out and she was being apologetic. And then, yeah, her dad arranged, like, most likely her dad arranged this media play. She's going to Jeju Island. We're sending her off to the island, like when when got trouble kids, send them off to the island. Hopefully they ain't getting into trouble anywhere there. Oh, she's trying to reflect on her sins and she's gonna be a reformed girl and go through treatment because she's living in a camping trailer, like not even like a trailer home or a tiny house or I don't know, something, with her grandma who has Alzheimer's. Oh, they try to make it look like, oh, Jesus has come to Jeju Island. And she was supposed to be living there, but then we see already a year later, she's acting like El Chapo in Gangnam at this 1% bar, which has now been called the new mini Burning Sun. Remember, she was like so-called supposedly distributing at the real Burning Sun back from 2016 to 2018. And so now it seems like she's, just repeating the business, business model. She got a business model. She probably has the contact. She probably has whatever, the supply chain. And so she gets caught in this whole scandal from a tip-off at this 1% bar, and this is where we're at in November 2023. So first it started off with a tip-off against apparently like this girl who's like the MD, and then the MD wants to save herself by yapping and talking, but somehow Hwang Hana is in here. And then also we're not even talking about the on again, off again YG trainee who has also been embroiled in this. And apparently it looked like she's always embroiled in this because she also sort of works at those bars too. And she even kind of said, like in media interviews, that it was just so tempting or an offer she couldn't refuse because, like I said, in those types of bars, you can just be literally just sitting there and nothing happens. Maybe nothing bad can happens, or it can go all the way. And she said just by sitting there when she first started working there, the on again, off again YG trainee girl, she said she got like about $2,000 for just like 3 hours. And for kind of like low level, or that's what somebody would make in a month. If you work at cafe or, even like an entry level job in Korea. So that was just way too good for her. So she's probably kind of in this world. And then that's probably how she met Hwang Hana because, Dairy Queen, she ain't going as a low level player. I mean, she comes from the world of let's make a deal. Let's, run some businesses, even though she may not have been handed the keys to the business. Those kind of kids, they kind of operate on a bigger scale. So that's the problem, I think, in this situation. If you keep digging into her case, you're going to see that she can't get away with the same excuses that she used in the past. And because it's just the number of times has grown in terms of violations, she's going to have to get a stiffer sentence unless she's cutting a deal and unless she's being held out of the spotlight by throwing in G-Dragon and sacrificing his career, ruining his name, just demolishing this celebrity who has nothing to do with her. She's willing to do that through, through this other girl. So it's like hiding behind many different layers, hiding behind different veils of protection. And so that's what it looks like is going on. So if you really look, she should be in trouble because now it's sort of like the 5th time, but officially it's the 3rd time she's probably going to get some sort of conviction, which means there's going to be some stiffer penalty. If there was not such a big G-Dragon and Lee Sun-kyun mess, I think there would have really been a lot more intense focus on this Dairy Queen girl again. And maybe even a discussion of changing the laws to include the death penalty, and perhaps even changing the situation where the death penalty is more applied. Apparently, a recent survey last year by Gallup Korea of 1,000 adults across the country said that 69% of respondents said that Korea should retain the death penalty. So politically and policy-wise, Korea has been moving away from the death penalty, and essentially in practice, not really having a death penalty by not implementing it, even though you are on death row. That can change very quickly with public sentiment, especially when people still believe that it should be there. And with this situation where, the illicit substances are becoming a greater problem in Korea, the public dialogue and debate can easily go towards harsher, stiffer punishments. We need an example. We need somebody's head on the stick. And the most convenient person right now would be Hwang Hana. But because she threw G-Dragon's head on a stick, she threw Lee Sun-kyun on a stick, and then maybe, muddying the waters with these other people, it makes it much easier for someone like her and others who may not even be named in this to slither out. All right, guys, so what do you think? This seems like, again, a case where the rich and powerful have these tricks up their sleeves to be able to just throw other people's lives and careers in front of the bus, decimate them just to save their own behind. I think at least it needs to be called out if they're gonna do it. All right, guys, well, put your comments below, like, share, and subscribe. See you again next time. Bye-bye.